The year is 2050 and the world is in chaos. Natural forces have pushed humanity to the brink as storms rage and fires burn across the globe. Some say we brought this upon ourselves, ravaging the earth for its resources too greedily. Others blame the machinations of secret organizations intent on destabilization. RiskShadowForces is a thrilling game of conflict between various factions seeking to control the fate of humanity and the precious resource Crutonium, a rare meteoric metal used to generate massive energy. Notably, RiskShadowForces is a legacy-style game. Over the course of a campaign, the players will make permanent physical changes to the board and components based on the choices they make during play and on the outcome of each game, including unlocking additional content that is sealed in envelopes. The campaign is made up of 15 games of RiskShadowForces. Most of these games take place on the world map and are similar to the classic game of Risk we all know and love. However, some games will be skirmish battles that play differently from the global game and can influence the world map. In addition, at the start of the campaign, players will choose one of 5 warlords to represent them throughout the series of games. These ruthless leaders will act as the head of your chosen faction in global games or partake in covert missions in the squad-level skirmish battles. Your first game of RiskShadowForces is a global mission and takes place on the world map. Set up the games per the instructions on page 6, and then jump to page 22 and follow the instructions to start the campaign. Each global mission, the players will hold a draft to determine the faction, turn order, starting location, and number of starting troops. They may be able to draft an additional warlord if any remain. At the end of the draft, make sure to place a warlord sticker on their chosen faction card. This will be important in later games. Fans of the classic Risk game will recognize many similar rules in the global missions of ShadowForces, but do note there are some differences, especially as you play more games and the rules and cards and boards evolve. On their turn, first a player checks if they have 20 energy. If so, they may spend it to gain a domination token. Obtaining 4 domination tokens is one path to winning the game. Next, players will gain troops and energy based on the number of territories they control. After placing these new troops, players may then start expanding. Just like in Classic Risk, players can expand into empty territories or attack opponents. Attacking armies can roll up to 3 dice, while defending armies may roll up to 2 dice. Players will arrange their dice from highest to lowest and compare the results. Players will then lose 1 troop for each comparison in which they rolled lower, with ties going to the defender. Now, if the defender has no more troops left in that territory, the attacker may move in and take over. However, if the defender still has troops remaining, the attacker must decide if they wish to attack again. Once a player has decided they are finished attacking, they may make one maneuver. To do this, they can move any number of troops from one territory to another territory they control that is connected by other territories controlled by that player. Finally, at the end of their turn, a player will draw a warlord card from their deck, as well as a warfare card. After this, any scars or marks that have been placed on the global board may be triggered. Players will take turns following these actions in player order until either a player has gained 4 dominance tokens, or if all other players have been eliminated. Now the 2nd, 4th, 7th, 10th, and 13th games of the campaign are skirmish battles, where warlords duke it out to gain advantages in the global conflict. To play a skirmish battle, set up the game as per the instructions on page 17 and the campaign notes on page 24. Each warlord will start on a space marked with an S, spaced out around the board. On a player's turn, they first have the option to move. They may move some, all, or none of their units from space to space based on their move rating. After completing your movement, a player may make either a melee or ranged attack. To make an attack, roll the number of dice on the attacker's card. Any dice that meet or exceed the to-hit value on that card count as hits. Then the defender will roll a number of dice based on the defense value on their card. Each die that meets or exceeds the value shown on the card will negate a hit. Any hits that still remain will become wounds. And if the number of wounds exceed the total life of the unit, that unit is knocked out and removed from the board. Players may also land on hostage tokens during some skirmish games. This will end the unit's movement, and the player may secretly look at the token and then place it back under the figure. Hostage tokens may be part of the goals of a skirmish battle. Now, some campaigns may also have events that require a cybertech check or an influence check. These values are shown on your warlord card. Warlords have different strengths and weaknesses between combat, influence, and cybertech. Skirmish games have different goals depending on the mission, so make sure to read the campaign book to understand each game. After either type of game, however, players will have the opportunity to update their player cards based on their success or failure in the previous mission. This may involve placing stickers on their warlord cards, on the global board, or elsewhere. Players will also record the results of the game in the game winner's log in the back of the rulebook. If they just played a global mission, players will also record info on their faction card. At the end of the 15 games, only one warlord will be left standing. The world will be changed, and each faction and warlord will be different from when they had started. Now, the campaign will have ended, but players can still play their copy of RiskShadowForces as a standalone game, forever altered by the conflict and history of that world. Do you have what it takes to lead your people to victory in this shadow conflict? You can only find out in Risk Shadow Forces.